and I say it on every episode, people watch this, listen to this, see you, listen to this huge amount of achievements, and they just think, wow, they pedestalize you. I could never do what Nathan's done. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. And on this week's Property Education Masterclass, we've got the absolutely incredible Nathan Winch, the owner of Winch & Co. Now, I'm not going to talk too much in this introduction because I go through it in depth as the episode begins. But at 34, the things that Nathan's accomplished is just mind-blowing. The amount of businesses that he's bought and sold and built, it's phenomenal. So you need to listen to this episode. Guys, if you get inspired by this episode, please do follow the show and leave us a review. It really helps. Until then, get comfortable. This is a great episode. Here we go. Nathan Winch, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate your time. I know that you are a very, very busy man, and I wanted to have you on the show for a few different reasons. Many different reasons. We're about to read them off, and I said it to you out here. What I like about Nathan is that you're secretly just going about your business, of which there are many, and doing some incredible, incredible things. But you don't feel the need to be sharing it, documenting it, telling everybody about it, being on a stage, selling it, trying to promote courses off the back of it. You are, I don't want to make your head too big, but you are someone who I see as a true entrepreneur that's just out there building businesses, doing amazing things, and just secretly just getting on with it.
Thank you very much.
While everybody else, including myself, I'm not going to pretend, we're out there sharing it, uploading it, real stories, this and that, all trying to, create more of an interest and engagement, and it's all for a reason, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you can go about and create what you've done without having to do that, that just, for me, brings it up a level, because it just shows that what you're doing is it's being an entrepreneur. So off the back of that, and in order to do you justice, and I don't normally do this where I just read so obviously from a crib sheet, but there's so much stuff here and I want to make sure that I do you justice. So you got Winch & Co., which is your main kind of blanket company, right? So let's run these off here. 2011, you founded Winch Pharma, securing a share of a £39 million NHS contract for hand sanitizers. That was your first big roll of the dice. And you must have been super young then. How old was you then?
I think, I don't know, about 22, something like
22.
that.
22. And you're already talking about numbers like that. It's madness. 2017, you successfully sold Winch Pharma to Biotrol, benefiting both the NHS and Biotrol. So that was your first exit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was.
Again, super, super young. 2021, Winch & Co. acquired a haulage and logistics company and a large construction business, marking a significant expansion in your investment portfolio. So this is where it really starts to swell. 2022, you're awarded Private Equity Chief Executive of the Year by CEO Monthly Magazine for outstanding leadership, and you bought DTS Transport Company, so another company to add to your list. Are you enjoying this?
Well, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, it's very, very nice.
Have to widen the door on the way up. 2023, you're featured in Insider Media's 42 Under 42, recognizing you as a leading figure in the Under 42 region. So you're now starting to be recognized in the world of business as this big time entrepreneur that's doing some crazy things.
Just missed the 30 Under 30, which is disappointing, but no, it was really, really nice of them to reach out.
Still able to sleep at night?
Still able to just about sleep at night.
Good. June 2024, Winch & Co. backed DTS, Dedicated Transport Solutions, in acquiring Patrick Logistics in Cramlington to expand its operational scope into the general road haulage sector. I mean, it just goes on and on. September 2024, DTS, your company, acquired an 80,000 square foot, I'll say it again, 80,000 square foot distribution centre in Ashtonton, Northumberland, enhancing its capacity for warehousing and distribution services. 2024, you're continuing to grow Winch & Co.'s portfolio with strategic acquisitions and expansions in the logistics sector. Now, I don't really know what to say about that because you're still only 34, which to have done all that whilst at the same time not screaming from the rooftops about it and being on a stage and going to networking events and, you know, trying to sell anything off the back of it, just quietly getting on with it, doing all that is just absolutely unbelievable. So yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Kudos to you, mate. And so again, I appreciate you being here, because all I've got to do is read that list, and it's obvious how busy you are. Plus you've just had, you know, you've got your young family now, you've got your 1 year old.
Yeah, I had a little guy came along just under a year ago. So he's 1 year old in November. So yeah, that's been a big disruption to my life, but in a really lovely way. Yeah. But yeah, it's all been a bit manic. When you read that, it does feel like, oh Christ, you know, it's been a hell of a journey. Yeah.
And I do find that on the show, sometimes when I do that and I read off a list of achievements, sometimes people are like, wow, you know, now that you read it back to me, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, well, you don't look back, do you? You just kind of keep grinding forward and keep, you know, moving on to the next thing. You forget to look back at what you've done, which I think an important thing to do now and again.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I don't want to spend too long talking about the past, because I want to be talking about now, what you're doing, where you're going, you know, because there's so much juicy stuff there. But in a nutshell, how do you get to this point by 34? What's your background? You know, are you some Eton graduate in triple, you know, business craziness, or, you know, how do you get to being this smart?
Kind of quite consequential, actually. I mean, my background is actually completely different to all of this. So I've got quite a sciencey background. Yeah. So, you know, my family are scientists, engineers, that sort of thing. So that's where I was headed. So the main plan for a very long time was to be a doctor. So I suffered with some kidney illnesses when I was very, very young, was in hospital quite a lot. So
you're an intellect?
I think so. I wouldn't call myself an intellect, but I suppose so. An academic is probably a better term, a less head-swelly term. But so my background was university, went to university, studied molecular biology after missing out on being able to go into medicine. So I think it was something like I had to get A, B in A level, and I got A, B, B. So I missed that. So I was absolutely devastated. I remember the phoning up Leeds University saying, well, you know, it's only a little bit off. And she's like, we just can't have you, you know, because that's obviously the creme de la creme, super intelligent people. So I was obviously missed the mark on that, which is, I mean, later down the road, I feel like I dodged a bullet with it, but we can talk about that later. But I kind of quite a methodical, sciencey background, did a gap year in the NHS in cancer research over in Leeds, and found myself purchasing stuff for my department. So like we were all responsible for our own things, and we bought things from NHS supply chain, which was the main place where the NHS has got to buy things from. So, and I noticed everything was ludicrously expensive, so much so that many of us would go out to Asda across the road to buy these things because they were cheaper than where the NHS was dictated to buy things from. And I just thought, this can't be right. And it was all massive monopolies and things like that were selling to the NHS.
Backhanders, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, we're talking a long time ago now, like 10 plus years ago, nearly 15 years ago. And I think I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, how difficult can that be? I mean, I'd always been quite entrepreneurial, like started my school's first newspaper and, you know, stupid things like that. So I'd always kind of had that kind of thing in me, which is quite, I think, controversial to a sciencey, methodical background. You know, that's the two don't often, I think, complement each other. You know, I sort of thought, well, how hard can this be? So started a business while still at university. And just bid on a contract. It was anybody could do it, you know, it's just nobody did. So back then there were no small businesses selling to the NHS, but there was nothing stopping anybody from going in and doing it.
When you say that so casually, you know, that I had the option or the opportunity to you know, bid on this contract. Yeah. How did you, because obviously that opportunity was available to everybody, but what was it inside of you that made you make that move, and how did you know how to do it? Because I've never done that. It sounds complicated.
Well, it was complicated, but I think having that gap year and working in the industry gave me the language and the knowledge and what to look for. I mean, I didn't know there was a central purchasing organisation for the NHS before I did that, so I wouldn't have even known, you know. So it opened me up to this world of public contracts and bidding on tenders and things like that, something I still do to this day. So it was just consequential, really. If I hadn't worked in the NHS, I wouldn't have known that existed. So, and I looked on it, and there was nothing preventing people from bidding. I mean, there were certain exclusion criteria, and anybody that works on bids and tenders knows about all this stuff. You know, you have to answer questions, and if you don't fit in the right categories, you just automatically get rejected. But I kind of worked alongside other people that kind of knew what they were doing. For example, a retired director of hospital budgets, you know, things like that, just reaching out to people that had been in the industry and knew what they were talking about. So I had a little bit of support around me. And then I just bid on a contract and we won, you know, and I was like, oh shit, you know, I'm a student, I've got no money.
Did you literally have no money?
No, nothing.
Because when some people say we had no money.
I mean, I was a student, Alex. I mean, okay. I'd literally, you know, I didn't have any money at all. You was
eating pot noodles for lunch?
Yeah, literally pot noodles for lunch. So I was like, I don't know what to do now. So I kind of went and tried to find investment, raised investment. Somebody from Peterborough, funnily enough, who was a businessman, I kind of pretended like I knew him. I kind of got in touch with several people and said, oh, you might not remember me, but I met you at such and such and we had a bit. I didn't, you know. But this guy said, I've never met you before. He said, oh, but I like the fact that you've tried that on, so I'll meet you. And we met at the Great Northern Hotel across from Peterborough train station. And he invested 100 grand in the business and it went from there, basically.
You had confidence, you had some sales techniques, you had some charisma. So you had that, but you had to put all that together and say, you know what, I'm going to go out and do this.
Yeah, in a compressed timeline as well, because I'd won this contract and we had to start providing what we said we were going to provide, you know. So I was months away from having to be ready. You know, it was something like 6 months. So there was a you know, a good bit of time between winning and having to kind of roll out and get started. But to go out, find somebody brand new, raise 100 grand, set up the business, find a location. I mean, it sounds ridiculous now thinking about it at 22 as well.
Yeah.
So we kind of got a little lock-up, little warehouse thing in Leeds. It was only like 2,000 square feet. And it's weird thinking back now. I don't often do this. But it was it was a mad time. So we got like different people involved. I remember getting a product expert involved, giving him a bit of equity. This was all I had to give, you know.
How did you structure the investment from your investor? Was it equity? Was it a straight loan?
No, it was equity. And anybody that helped kind of got sweat equity as well. Because I couldn't pay anyone. I didn't have any money or anything. So,
but you still had to sell them on the idea. I had it was going to be worth their time.
Exactly. I had to sell them on the idea, and we just kind of went from there and grew, and we had to find suppliers. I mean, Biotrol were a supplier of ours for certain technologies and stuff. So we sort of went from there, really. And I kind of was in my car all the time, driving up down the country to different NHS trusts and hospitals, trying to meet people and sell our wares, basically, and grow the business.
And did you have support from your parents and the people around you at the time?
I did. I mean, nobody really... You know, we're not a family of entrepreneurs or anything. So I think it was hard for anybody to understand it or get behind it properly. I mean, in a sense that parents are like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll support you and you do what. But I think in the back of their minds, it was, you know, this is stupid, you know.
Bit of a flash in the pan.
Yeah, you've got a degree, go and get a job, blah, blah, blah. So, which I did originally want to do, but you know, it kind of mutated into this other thing, really. And it took. I must admit, it took a long time to get that business going because the NHS are quite resistant to change. So we were trying to promote non-alcoholic hand sanitizers, things like that. You know, something that's unique and quirky.
So what was you doing? Because you know, the hardest part of any business is there's normally a period of time between opening the doors and actually any profit or any money going in your pocket, right? That's normally the hardest part. And that's when most people, it gets to 6 months, a year, and they're like, you know, screw this, I'm going to go and get a job because I can't survive. So how long was it before you actually started generating any kind of
kind of real income? Yeah, probably 2-3 years before it actually, you know, did anything spectacular. So it was a slog. You know, we were moving in a slow-paced industry. Whilst they were fast-moving goods, you know, you're talking about the NHS here, so very bureaucratic. Even though we were on the framework and we were a approved NHS supplier, didn't mean that you just automatically sold millions of pounds worth of stuff. You know, you still had to promote it to grassroots all the way up to budget. So, you know, nurses on the ground floor had to like it. You know, the directors had to like it, budget control had to like it, and these guys never agreed on anything. So it was a big slog, actually, really difficult. I wouldn't go into that business again.
Was it just hand sanitizer that you were supplying?
It was to begin with, and then we kind of branched out into different things to kind of make it more of an offering. So, tourniquets, the things that you have around your wrist and stuff like that. So, we did quite a bit. So general consumables, cleaning consumables and stuff like that. So,
And when you... I don't know how comfortable you are talking about numbers. I mean, obviously we got a big number here of 39 million pounds. When you sold out to Biotrol, was there an option for you then at that age to just kick back and move to Monaco?
It was. I think the best way to describe it was enough money to do something with, but not enough money to do nothing.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So
it wasn't a huge number, but it was for me at that time was massive. So they essentially, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I mean, if obviously everybody's like, if you did it again, you'd do this and this. But Biotrol were a supplier of ours, and they were wanting to get into the NHS for a long time. And so the easiest way to do it was to just buy us, basically, which they did.
And was there any part of you after you sold out that thought, maybe I just got lucky? And is this really for me? Am I going to be able to do it again? I mean, obviously you've done it multiple times, but was that did you have the confidence then to think, this is me. I know I can do this now.
I did actually. I mean, it didn't go. None of that was to plan. Anything pre 2017, none of it was planned. It was just bumping into the walls and crashing into, So none of it was planned. We're just kind of winging it, basically. I knew I wanted to run a business. I knew that was me, kind of generating value and things like that. But none of it was planned. But it did give me the confidence to think, right, I've done this now, and sort of made more money with that sale than the whole 6 or 7 years of running the business before. So I thought maybe that's where the money is, in selling businesses rather than owning and running businesses, So that's where it's kind of started to click in my head that maybe I have a different strategy. Because once I'd sold that business, I started another business in a similar area, which I then sold a year later. Essentially just won some NHS contracts and sold the business without doing any trading,
See, this is what I like about you. And maybe I'll make your head a bit bigger now, but a lot of you watching this and listening to this, you probably don't even know who Nathan is, because again, you're just kind of getting on with it, and he's buying and selling businesses for big, big numbers here, but you're not slapping it around all over the place and all the social media channels, which is, I absolutely love. What do you think about, it's just mind blowing to me that you could, because as you're talking through that process of, started the business, tendered contracts to the NHS, built the business, sold it to Biotrol. You say it, obviously, they're just words, right? But when you think, it's nothing I've ever done, and probably, I don't know if there's anyone listening or watching this that's built and sold a business in such a quick period of time. But every single part of that process, there's so much to it. And for most people, it's their life, their whole life. They build a business over the term of their life, right? And then at the end, when they get to retirement age, it's like, okay, now maybe we've got something that's got some value. But for you to do it so young, and am I right in thinking that this is something else that you do different? You did all that without getting a mentor and doing the business training and doing all the courses. You just went out there and taught yourself.
Well, there wasn't really any training or courses or anything like that back then, And in terms of a mentor, I guess the closest thing I had was the investor I had. But he obviously had other motives. He wanted to make money on his investment. He didn't necessarily see himself as a mentor,
Was he a big business person?
He was, yeah. He's come from consulting and oil and retail and things like that. So it was difficult to keep him engaged, actually, because him from a fast-based sort of background to bringing him into the NHS, where you've got to have 20 meetings and a conference just for anybody to fart, it's ridiculous. So it was difficult to keep him engaged, actually. In fact, he did leave before I sold the business because it wasn't right for him. So was you intimidated having to go in and have meetings with the NHS? Not really, because it was kind of quite informal. The whole thing was quite informal, I kind of come across quite extroverted. Most people would describe me as an extrovert, but I don't think I am. I'm probably more of an introvert. So I have to put a lot of effort into things like that, where it's for the first time I'm going in and I'm doing this. So, or maybe a little bit of both, I guess, but it's not without its anxiety and, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? But things did get a bit more methodical after that. It was just, first time figuring it all out.
If you love to travel like me and you understand the power in escaping the money for time exchange trap, but you just don't know how to do it, then building an Airbnb consultancy business could be exactly what you have been looking for. Right now in the UK, there is a completely untapped opportunity through helping struggling Airbnb hosts by turning around their underperforming properties and generating you huge commission payments in the process. We are going to teach you all of the tools and all of the techniques that we've learned over the last 5 years through building our very own multiple six-figure Airbnb business, arming you with everything that you need to swoop in and save the day. Minimal startup costs, zero risk, and almost unlimited potential. Sound good? Welcome to the Airbnb Consultant. Contact us through any of the channels included in the studio notes to get the conversation started. Yeah, because now, I've got a massive love-hate relationship with, if you want to, go take a crap, there's a 3-day mastermind, you know what I mean? It's like, it's everything. And, the amount of people now that are running events and courses and this and that to raise finance, this is the latest thing. I'm going to teach you the magic code and the black magic and the tricks and to get around the wealthy and the words you need to use. And it's like, come on, you just need to have a good product, a good idea, be confident, have an adult conversation and know your numbers, right? There's not really that much more to it than that. But you must have, as a 22-year-old sitting in front of that guy asking for 100 grand, you must have got some pretty hardcore cross-examination, no?
Yeah, I did actually, looking at the numbers and obviously checking out that the contract was real and stuff like that. In fact, I remember going through 75% of the meeting, him thinking he's investing 60K, and I had to stop him and say, no, actually, I'm asking for 100. He went, oh, all right, then, yeah, that's fine, 100 then. And I was thinking, oh God, it's all quite nerve-wracking actually, thinking about it and thinking, am I meant to be doing this? I forget what the name of it is, imposter syndrome,
Yeah, for sure.
So, I still have that now and again. But it was massive back then, thinking, what am I doing? You've got the qualifications to get a decent job, and I think, but then I think everyone goes through that,
Yeah. Was there any, what kind of security, I don't want to get stuck in the weeds too much on this, but it's raising that kind of money at such a young age is such a big thing. So what kind of security did he want? Was there any security or just equity?
Just equity in the business, yeah.
But based, because most people, it's like, okay, let's look at what you've previously done. Okay, you've already bought and sold 5 businesses. I'll give you 100 grand. But you've been eating pot noodles a week before.
I know. It's mental, isn't it? I've never even kind of thought of it like that. I don't know. I think he saw something in me, and and I've obviously, like you say, working in academia, I guess there's a bit more onus put on guys like us that we know what we're doing, even though we probably don't. Half the time. In fact, sometimes less than other people. So. I don't know what was going through his head at the time, but I still talk to him now and again to this day.
I was going to ask you still.
I do. Has
he reinvested with you?
No, he hasn't. He's gone on to do other things, but I do. I phoned him the other day, or he phoned me the other day, actually, just out of the blue. But we can go years without speaking, and then I'll phone him or he'll phone me, and we'll just have a chat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So. I want to move on to some more current stuff, but what's your, just before we move on, what is your thoughts about this whole thing about where, people, they want to maybe, go down a similar path to what you've done and try and, have similar results, which is a big ask, but, a lot of people want to go out there and try, but then immediately they're like, okay, I need to do the course. I need to go out and I need to find a mentor. And I'm not going to sit here and rubbish the idea of getting a mentor. I do think it's important, but I'm interested in your thoughts on that because you didn't do that. Now, are you just kind of a bit of a super genius and you didn't need that kind of support? And do you support other people maybe going and doing that? Or do you think everyone's got the the ability to go out there and do it?
That's a difficult question. I mean, I just had the self-motivation, you know. I never saw it as a big challenge to overcome. I just thought we just got to do it, you know. And I often tell, because people say, oh, can you mentor me or can you tell me what to do? And I think it'd be very short if I did. It'd be, you know, just do it, basically, with a few more expletives in it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Because if it doesn't work, bish bash boss, it's out of the way, move on to something else that might work. So for me, it's and I instill it even today in my management team, you know, because a lot of them are very risk averse corporate people. And I get, in meetings, I can get so frustrated and I think, let's just do it. Let's just do it, because if in a week's time it's not working, we can kibosh it. You know, rather than talk about it for 6 months, we could have started it, tried it, perfected it, and got to where we need to be in 3 months. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and that's not always the right approach. I get that. But, you know, I fail fast and move on, I think. Because I've had failures as well. You know, I've had a lot of big failures where I've lost a lot of money. So it's not like this is all super geniuses. Nah. I try and get smart people around me. But it's been, you know, it's been up and down. Yeah, it's very difficult.
So it's kind of the Richard Branson philosophy, right? Just screw it, let's do it. Let's just, you know, get on with it.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
But I do think, Nathan, that, again, it sounds simple as you say it, but I do think, and I don't know if you recognize that the way that you act and the way that you say, you know, let's just do it, and if it doesn't work, you know, move on, that's quite rare, right? Most people will procrastinate, get this kind of analysis paralysis, look at something for months, sometimes years, before deciding whether or not to pull the trigger. And I remember Peter Jones saying, some things are sticking in mind. Peter Jones of Dragon's Den, he said, you know, the only difference with me is that when I have an idea, I do it. And most people have 100 ideas and they just talk about it and then they go back to the pub and forget about it. So do you recognize that in yourself, that maybe you're a little bit different to the point where you're so just, you're able to simplify something and just do it without worrying and looking ahead and catastrophizing about what might go wrong? You know, that's quite a gift.
Yeah, I don't look at what could go wrong. I mean, I do now, but I don't, back then I didn't really. I just looked at what could go right, because I think I saw a quote or something. If you spend X amount of time thinking about everything that go wrong, you should spend X amount of time thinking about everything that can go right. And I think, you know, Christ, that's quite important. That, you know, but it's different's definitely the word. I mean, I don't think about that. I just do it. You know, I don't think about, oh, you know, how are you different to everybody else? I just sort of do it. Alex, I genuinely can't make it more simple than that. And people think I've got some secret, and I don't. I just crash into the walls and make it work and dust myself off when it doesn't, you know.
So would you class yourself, again, very similar to the Richard Branson way of doing business, and he'll be the first one to admit, you know, I don't know anything about driving trains, flying planes, driving boats, you know, or cruise ships. I just surround myself by people that do. And he talks about himself as being like the conductor in the orchestra, which is so powerful, because if you have the ability to do that, and obviously you need to be the lead visionary and you need to know who to surround yourself with, and you need to be the ideas person, and you need to be constantly lifting people up, and you need to have that. But if you can do that and you have those skills, then it kind of opens up the door to pretty much what I'm seeing here, where you can do hand sanitizers, and then you can do haulage, and then you can do and God knows what else you got planned. So would you kind of explain, like, is that who you are?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously I had a bit of experience in the stuff I did right at the start. I mean, it was sort of left field experience. But going on, it was just thinking, I remember at the time I messaged, one of the guys, WhatsApp, I think I saw an advert come on and it was something to do with Amazon. And I just saw a truck driving, and I thought, this was after I'd sold the first business and we'd done a few other things, and I'd done a bit of angel investing, which I'm not a massive fan of, but, and I thought, well, what's the net? And I thought something stable, something fairly recession proof. And I was looking for ages at what this business might be. And then I saw a TV advert and you know, a truck driving down the road, and I thought, transport and haulage and logistics, know nothing about it, but I think that seems to me, as a fairly smart person, recession-proof, always going to be needed until we invent teleportation, you know, asset businesses, so something behind them. I thought this is something, and I remember sending a message to the group, management group, and saying, this is what we're going to do next.
It sound, I don't know why, but transport and haulage, logistics, it's like a very grown-up business. I don't know why.
Very tangible. And I thought, because a lot of the businesses we'd done, they'd not been very tangible. Like not hate's a strong word, but I don't find a lot of affinity for software businesses, service businesses like that have no tangibility.
Yeah.
Like you can't go and touch what's making you money.
Yeah.
It's all very cloud-based and it might sound like a very old person's mindset but I think I just like it. I love it, and I love they're all massive toys. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of got into that and got a management team around me that were in that industry as well. So
the difference maybe between, not trying to put myself down, but I'm not where you are, and I haven't done anything like what you've done here. It's most people haven't. But maybe one of the reasons for that is that I would look at trucks on the road, and my mind would immediately go to, it's massively saturated. Like tons of endless companies. How many trucks do you see? It's all there is on the roads. Why the hell would I want to get involved in something? It's obviously already dominated by these industry leaders. I'll never be able to compete on price. I couldn't even imagine what the maintenance bill must be on these lorries. So my mind immediately goes to no. And you're just seeing a big fat yes. So that's interesting.
Yeah. It's a set. Well, actually, I found that the industry is quite fragmented. So it's mostly smaller businesses. There's very few big businesses. And to me, in investment, which I guess is the real business that I'm in, thinking, well, there's some arbitrage to be had there then in rolling up smaller businesses to give something more substantial to bigger businesses that don't have the time to buy small businesses because they're too small, but they're not too small for someone like me to buy and, the industry terms, roll them up, but stick them together and make them work more profitably, more efficiently until a point where it's big enough that then somebody on another level is interested, and then it's the making the money, selling them essentially. That's the plan anyway. But yeah, so it's so for the very same reasons you've mentioned there would be the reasons I would look at something like that and think, yeah, that's probably something to look at.
Okay. So your main business is what you just said. You look at industry where there's small companies that you can buy and then basically glue them together into this one big business and then sell it to an even bigger business in that industry.
Yeah.
Is that about
we
right?
Can stop there because that's exactly hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. So we're done.
So I'm a genius.
Spot on. That's actually, I might need to look, obviously when I watch this podcast, I'm going to write that down because I've never articulated it as good as that. So there you go.
Can I get like a commission or something?
Yeah.
Part of the
I don't know about
takeover?
that, but that's perfectly what we do. Yeah.
So so then in that case, again, it sounds simple, but how do you choose the industry? You're in transport, you're in construction, two massive industries. Like, is it just, what is your job? What do you do day to day? Are you like the analysis guy that's out there trying to find the next opportunity?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I obviously do what I need to do. So sometimes there might be operational issues that need outside support. So I'll get involved in things like that. And as a management team, we try and kind of divide and conquer. So I might have one guy that's focused on the construction business. At the moment, I'm actually focused on the transport business, and then another guy might be focused on the angel investments. So we try and divide and conquer, but we're all across everything, But yeah, day to day, it's kind of like analysis, that thing that people are talking about, working on the business rather than in the business. So I just work on the business. In some of these businesses, I don't know even who the customers are. I try and get to know all the people, though. I think that's important, but there'll be, new starters and people leave, and I'll not know everybody, you know what I mean? So, and that's just a symptom of us getting bigger, I guess. But how
many people you got working at Winch?
So there's about 50 full-time employees so far. That's across everything.
Amazing.
And we obviously try to, not over-employ because we want to make these things profitable. But at the same time, it's great to personally develop people and see people, get better and give people pay rises and have people develop and get promoted and stuff. So I've kind of liked that, but I all the technical side of employment, I don't really know it. I don't really understand it. Holidays in lieu and this person's got this and national insurance this and pensions and nest that, and I don't understand any of it. But we have people that do, So I think that's important. But yeah, it's great. It's lovely to employ. It's nice to say, we employ 50 plus people full time, but it's a headache. It's one of those vanity things, isn't it?
How did you go from? I mean, what you just said, I think will maybe give quite a lot of comfort to some people listening that you don't, because a lot of the time, and I say it on every episode, people watch this, listen to this, see you, listen to this huge amount of achievements, and they just think, wow, they pedestalize you. I could never do what Nathan's done. I don't even know what to do with my receipt, when I go to the petrol station, right? Now, you just said that there's a lot of stuff that you don't know, but you bring in people that do. So what would you say to people who are out there thinking, I don't have the skills. I don't know how to run a business. I want to get into business, but I don't know how to do it. Because there must have been a period of time before you got to 50 plus employees where you did have to know each of those moving parts. So you say that you don't know them, but what did you do back then before you had someone to take care of it for you?
Well, I had to do it all myself. Yeah, just learn it. And I mean, Winch Farmer never had more than 2 employees, I don't think. So, 3, including myself. So you knew everybody. You knew everybody's birthdays. You went out and had drinks with people, and you had to learn that. So the stuff I had to learn. It was for a smaller scale thing. So I guess in my head it's easier, but it's still the same principles, really. So I do know about some of those things, but not enough to a degree that we'd remain compliant and pay all of our bills on time and know what to pay. And that's impossible for one person to understand. You have to grow outside of that. For as long as you think that you're the one that's got to do everything, you'll stay stuck at that level forever, basically. Yeah,
and I think where you've really obviously excelled, and you said it earlier, is about working on the business and not in the business. Yeah. And we talk about it a lot, with people that we work with, and most people do. I only really know property. I don't have this wide selection of different industries here that you're involved with, but definitely in property, people will leave the full-time job that they hate with an idea to make more money and get their time back, and they get into property, and they a lot of the time end up earning less money and doing 10 times the work. And now, instead of being able to get home and clock off and forget about things, they're now laying in bed at 3 a.m. stressed out about paying the bills. So do you, what's that like for you, having 50 odd employees? Do you carry that responsibility quite easily, or does it weigh down on you?
I'll have moments where it weighs down on me, because I think if I make the wrong decision or I'm stupid, it could end the livelihood of a number of people that have got mortgages, families, children. Yeah. And having a child myself now and all the rest of it, it's kind of like scary that you're not responsible for just your own family. I'm responsible for 50 plus. God knows how many then interconnected people. It might be 150, 200 people. I could have some impact on their life. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. They're the guys out there earning the money. They're the ones earning the money for me. But there's that responsibility of running the business that they don't have to worry about, that we do, that sometimes weighs you down, but you can't. You've just got to try and not let it, and you've just got to keep going and keep stable. And I guess when you get bigger, you become a slightly more risk averse, and you look at consolidation and things like that. So, which only helps with that, doesn't it, I suppose?
So what is the drive for you, Nathan? Everybody's got their reasons. Some people, get really excited about the cars and the watches. Other people, it's about getting their time back and just being able to say, I've done it. I'm in control. I've made it myself, and that's enough for them. What is it for you? Because I saw you in the car park. You drive a nice car, but you didn't pull up in a convertible Lamborghini. So what's the drive?
I think it's just security, really, and being able to do. And it's changed over time, Alex, as well. So when you're younger, I guess you do want more of the flashy stuff. I just couldn't afford it then. But for me now, it's more about financial security, spending more time with my family, which is dramatically different to what it was a year ago. And kind of try, I don't know really, it's a difficult question, because this is one that people always ask me, and I probably give a different answer every time. But I think it's security, time, being able to treat family, if someone's having an issue, nothing being a problem. Do you know what I mean? So I think that sort of thing, really, it's become less about the the ego. And I guess at one point it will have been that, I'll admit, you know.
How far do you go then? I mean, do you fly first class? Do you have to lay down beds?
So
there's some luxuries.
Yeah, I don't. For a long time, I've not paid myself a very big amount of money, so I try and take luxuries elsewhere. So if I go on the train, for example, it'll never be less than first class. If I fly, it'll always be business class or better. It's little things like that, you know, that I don't. You know, like you say, I've got a nice car, but it could be nicer. I have thought about that, but I then look at it and I think, is it worth it? You know, like we could do something else with that money. So I'm still kind of stuck in the mindset of, well, I could invest that money and get this much of a return. So why would I get a better car? You know, it's things like that, I suppose. But
it's just another great thing about you. I love it all. I love it all that you're not pulling up in some flashy car.
I know. I
think it's the right way to do it, because I also don't think that arriving at the office in a Lamborghini and greeting your employees is really a great thing either.
Well, there's that as well. I mean, I have this story where in one of the, and I won't name any names, in one of the businesses we had somebody that drove a Porsche, and they'd pull up every day. You know, we're in this. It's part of the construction business, and we were in this like warehouse, which is not the, you know, it's a dog-eared industrial estate, and this person's pulling up in a Porsche every day, and you can tell it's irritating the staff, you know. And it was a salesperson, and they were in quite a senior role. I mean, they've since left the business because they weren't the right fit, but it was things like that, and I think, and that was because that was where on the cusp I was thinking, because I quite like Porsches, so I was thinking, and I still am thinking of getting a Porsche, but they had a Porsche, and and I could see the effect it was having, and they were thinking, well, to the point where people were asking for pay rises, because they were thinking, well, how much is he on, how much is she on, and it was causing a bit of a rift, this car. I mean, it wasn't even a very new Porsche, you know, and I was thinking, you've got to think about that culture, you know, when you employ quite a lot of people, you've got to think of the interactions people have, and this stupid things like stakeholder engagement and corporate culture now apply to us. And I'm like, oh God, it's just like an extra headache to deal with, you know, but it's real. It's not just buzzwords.
It's very real. And I'll give you a real life example that sticks in my mind so clearly. Very different setting, very different time in my life. But I was a scuba diving instructor for 12 years. And I used to live in the Cayman Islands. And we worked for this fantastic dive resort on this tiny island, you know, nothing but beaches and palm trees. And we were busy. It was an American market, big paying clients. It was quite upmarket, and we killed ourselves. There was about 10 of us, and we'd do 3 dives a day. We'd load and unload, you know, probably 100 tanks per person each every single day working at this dive resort. And we smashed it every year. Profits going up and up and up. You know, the family were absolutely caked, rolling in money. And remember one year we had our Christmas party, and we was down at the nightclub there, the one bar called the Hungry Iguana, and we was having our Christmas party, and the general manager stood up and he gave a speech, you know, thank you so much, another great year, you've all done an excellent job. And then the son of the family stood up, I won't say his name, nice guy, and he stood up and he just, for the next 20 minutes he spoke about, you know, we've made more money this year than last year, and more money last year than the year before. And, you know, we're making more money than ever. And he was just, and we're all there thinking, yeah, you know, this is great. Anyway, thanks a lot. And he said, the bar's open, drinks all night. So we went up to the bar, and I remember I went up to the bar and said, I'll have a Grey Goose and cranberry. And she looked at me and she said, no top shelf drinks, only the shit cheap stuff. And I remember thinking, that's so shit. And everybody complained about it that night. And the next day, the motivation was in the toilet, because we thought we just busted our ass, made this guy all this money, and he's not even going to let us have top shelf drinks for the night.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So it's true. It's so important. And I do think arriving at work in a fancy car, if you know, it's all relative, right? But so anyway, let's move on to now, as the clock trip goes around on triple speed. What you got going on now? What you focused on, what's getting you excited, and where you're heading?
So we're focusing on the incumbent businesses that we've got. We're looking at complementary acquisitions. We're looking at strategies to grow organically as well.
Sorry, can you complementary acquisitions? Bring it down to layman's terms.
Just buying things that make sense for what we've got. So, for example, with a construction business, we're looking at various timber suppliers that might be a good fit,
Okay.
things like that really. So
Stuff like maybe digger hire.
yeah. So things that would complement what we've got. So and make it more cost efficient, more profitable. They call it vertical integration, which is another fancy term, but all it means is buying your suppliers.
And sorry to ask, dumb questions. Obviously, you live and breathe this stuff. Let's say that I'm you and I'm there and I'm like, oh, John's digger hire. I like the look of that. It's not for sale. Do I literally call up John and be like, hey, John, have you ever thought about selling?
Yeah, essentially. More often than not, we get referrals because we do like industry press release and things like that. So we keep ourselves relevant.
So do people come to you mostly?
People come to us mostly, yeah, but it wasn't always like that. So I remember when our core team was at its largest, we do a lot of internal comms. So we would send out letters to businesses. So we'd get lists and we'd whittle them down and we'd look at balance sheets and we'd see if this is a right fit for us. And then we'd create this master list and we'd just literally send out letters to all these people. So we've never bought anything on market. So I know this is a property podcast. So for your property people, we've only ever bought off market deals.
Like motivated sellers?
Yeah,
well.
Essentially, yeah. So we throw mud at the wall and see what sticks was our motto for a long time. And even if you get less than 1% of the output that you create, then it's a good deal. It makes sense because this was a very inexpensive exercise. And then it just got, as we kind of went round the circuit and bought more and in specific industries, we started to get known and deals started coming to us basically, which is fantastic. I've still to this day never bought anything through a broker or an agent, but it's not to say that I wouldn't,
And how does the ethics lie in that? Because very similar to property, there's a lot of people that will prey on, older people or divorced people that are in a really tight spot, need to sell fast, and they'll take it for a steal. So if I come to you and I say, look, Nathan, I'll be honest with you, I got this digger company and it's going down the toilet. Are you interested? Your man goes in, pulls the books apart and says, yeah, they're losing money hand over fist. How do you find a fair kind of, or is it just your company's worth nothing?
I think it depends because a lot of what we do is turnaround. So we do turn around more than we buy profitable businesses. And the reason we do that is because the effort tends to sort of be the same, but you can make more off fixing something that's broken. It's the same as property. The same as property. So there's more, if you buy this horrible broken down smelly house that's got Japanese knotweed, it's going to sell cheap. You're going to have to put probably not as much effort into it as what other buyers might think you need to. Mm-hmm. Turn it around and you can sell it for full market value. There's much more margin in that than buying something that's a ready to go vanilla buy to let. And it's exactly the same with us. So, we buy the vanilla ready stuff, but we do turn around and we put ourselves through the hassle and pain of turnaround because at the end of it, it's more valuable to us as a return on investment. So not to kind of pull all the life and soul out of it, but we help people as well, that might otherwise go bust. And then there's all kinds of things that happen when that happens for business owners. But there's a fine balance, to be honest, Alex, with that. When
you're restructuring and fixing these companies, do they still leave the ownership from John's Diggers? Does John's Diggers still move over to you? Do you take ownership?
We take ownership. Yeah, we take ownership because then we're going to be putting our resource, our capital, our time into it to fix it. But they're probably very much a part of it for a while. So handover and things like that. Like with customers and things that we might need to speak to, that if it's a small business, the owner tends to do a lot. So they might know all the customers, have all the keys for the whatever. So we tend to lock business owners into it for a time that we can understand the business and take it on, or put new people in to replace them, because we don't run these businesses. We have to buy them and they have to be, self-sufficient in an operational sense. And then we just fix them. We find out what's wrong with them, and we, if there's bills with HMRC, we go and beat up HMRC a bit to give us better terms, or it might be creditors that are pressing down on the business. We go and negotiate and say, look, we bought this business. You can either, work with us or we'll just fold it, and more often than not, it's kind of giving them a cost benefit to say, this is where we're planning on taking it. So you'll make a lot of money giving us better terms. It's that sort of stuff, really. So there's a lot to it. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but
it sounds, as you're saying, incredibly complicated.
Yeah, and I've got a very good team around me that do that. So we've got like experts in all the different areas. So it's not I don't do. I mean, I'm learning. I've learned a lot, and I know a lot more about these things than I did. But we've got like experts in HMRC, experts in creditor management, different things, employment law, and things like that. So we can kind of do that where a business owner that's kind of run out of money, doesn't know what to do, doesn't want to have to let the staff go and go through all the pain of insolvency, can come to someone like us and we'll help them fix it. And more often than not, we'll give them a share of the upside as well. It's not like we're going to buy this for £1, you're going to piss off and we're going to make all the money 3 years down the line.
That was going to be my next question, because you hear a lot about people buying businesses for £1 and taking on the debt, and that's not...
Which is valid. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take on hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt, the business is losing money or it's not very profitable, there's an argument for that,
Yeah.
But we try and do things as best we can, and keep different stakeholders engaged, because more often than not, these business owners have built it up to something good and they've had bad luck, or the market's turned, or something's happened like Liz Truss and the quasi-Kwarteng mini budget that have decimated loads of businesses. It's not fair. So those people are still quite valuable because they've built this business from nothing. So they obviously have some value to give. So we just try and work it so that all stakeholders are involved and have some interest in it, going forward, really, as best we can.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's amazing. So what do you think, being a big, business owner, having all these staff now and all this responsibility, and now, let's just touch on, not for too long, but, about the new government. What do you feel, what do you think about that? Labour government, they're not exactly supportive of business and entrepreneurialism and visionaries. Do you feel threatened or scared about the future of, or at least the next 4 or 5 years?
I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think the next year or two, people don't really need to worry about anything. But depending on how the economy performs by the end of those 2 years, it might be a very rocky couple of years following that. So we've got our plan for whatever happens. So we'll be largely unaffected, because we've kind of started planning for this back when, the Conservatives looked like they were going to lose because of the way they were. I'm not a very political person. I've only voted a couple of times. I'm not either way. Like, I'm not right wing, left wing, anything really. I'm just, how's my business doing? That's kind of what I am. So I don't have any particular thing either way. I do think they're all the same. They're quite homogenised, these governments. But this is something quite different, I've got to admit. This is something we've not really experienced before. We've had lots of low interest environments where everything performs really well, even the bad stuff performs. And then we've had high interest rate environments where, things that are established continue and other stuff fails. And it's just been very tumultuous, as the last, 2022 was a rocky year. I mean, that was particularly rocky for me as well, So we just got to suck it and see, really. I guess it's kind of plan around what you think might come. I think a lot of the stuff that's been talked about is rumours. I don't think they'll increase capital gains tax to 39%. It'll probably be up to 25, something like that, maybe. And just monitoring it, really, I suppose. I don't want to say too much that dates this podcast, but I think it's just, let's see what happens and pivot and adapt to what it is, really. I do think a lot of people would leave, though. A lot of wealth creators would probably leave the UK, even if things are not increased as high as what people are speculating, But we'll just have to see. The next couple of years will be a make or break, I suppose.
Well, and that was going to be my next question. Someone who, presumably is in a pretty good financial position with a young family. Is there any part of you that thinks, I'm going to sod the Porsche, I'm going to sell everything up and go and buy a boat and move to Monaco instead?
I've thought about it. I mean, when you have periods of where things are really difficult, you think, we could just hop it and leave. I mean, we had I've not been on holiday for so long. There's usually 5 or 6 years between holidays with me.
Really?
But we went on me and my partner, we went to Santorini, I think a couple of years ago now. Might have even been longer than that. And we hired a like a little yacht for just the two of us, and we had a meal and stuff. And I thought, oh, this is amazing, you know. And I got a bit of imposter syndrome then as well, you know. I was thinking, oh God, I'm just uncomfortable the whole time. The partner was seasick, so the whole thing was wasted. But no, the skipper gave us some special chewing gum or something. I was thinking, and she was like, she sprung up and she was fine. I know nothing about boats. I'm not like yourself, but I did love that. I've got to admit, I really, really did. Round the the archipelago, or whatever you call it, in the bay for Santorini, just going around for hours and hours and hours. This was obviously before the little one came along. And I just thought I could do this. And we sat, and I even got talking to the hotel rep and was like, is there any properties for sale? There's lots of half-built things around here. There's got to be something going cheap.
Yeah.
And even looking at how much those boats actually cost and stuff. But fleeting moments, but yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous, fantastic holiday, yeah.
I mean, do you think this is something that you could replicate in other parts of the world, or is it very UK
I don't know,
based?
really. I think it probably could be done better in other parts of the world, where obviously governments are not so reductive and suppressive, like people do this in America, right? And it's massive,
You'd probably be a billionaire if you lived in America.
Maybe. But I think the culture of the UK is just a bit negative, and it's more
very negative.
It's more kind of focused on what can go wrong, what will go wrong, and wanting to see the people around you not as good as you. I think there's a thing of that, whereas in other parts of the world, you get a kick from all of your mates doing better than you, or other family members or competitors or whatever it is. So I think there's a cultural thing in the UK. So I like to think, because I'm biased, I like to think that I've done it where it's hard, so I could maybe replicate somewhere else. But I love the UK, I've got to admit, but I love it abroad as well. We don't really get the weather, do we? So
I mean, what is the where are you? What's the exit? What's the plan? What's the long-term vision? What is all this for? What's the end goal? Is it purely just to make as much money as possible, or is there something bigger?
I think it's just I love working in these industries. I do love employing people as much as I moan about it. I like creating opportunities. I've got some angel investments, some of which are exploring exits themselves. So a lot of it is doing the do. Like I love the idea of like getting that boat and sailing around Santorini for the rest of my life, but I would crack out the laptop. I'm not one of these people that would sit on a beach, You
need to keep working.
And I think the people that want to sit on a beach are the ones that won't ever achieve it.
Right.
As weird as that might sound quite controversial.
Shit, I spend a lot of time on the beach.
Yeah, but you've left the high life. You were saying, oh, there's palm trees, I'm scuba diving every day. I was thinking, what are you doing here, mate? Get yourself back. But yeah, it's I think if that's your main driver, I am then quite skeptical of whether that person is going to be able to achieve that, because it's because we're workaholics and we love to do it and we love to be in it that we do it. Like a lot of people tell me they've got 5 and 10 year plans, and I think, no, we haven't. You just love doing it because you would have been out ages ago. Like I know people that have built huge businesses, hundreds of millions of pounds, and they're still doing it. And I think you haven't got a 5-year plan. You're just going to carry on doing it till you're dead, And I think that's possibly me. I don't know.
So do you think that at the end of it, when that day comes and you're laying there thinking, all right, well, I create some opportunities. I've hired some staff and I invested in these companies. Do you think that's going to be enough? Are you going to look back and think, yeah, that was time well spent?
Yeah, I think I will. Like enough is enough. It's not like I know a few people that enough's never enough. Literally, their motto is enough is never enough. So I think looking back, it's. I just wonder how I've done it. I wonder whether I could do it again. I do think that, there's been a lot of manufactured good luck there, because I hate to use the term good luck because I've had a lot of bad luck actually. But I think I don't know whether I'd be able to do it again from scratch. It's been a bit. I mean, I probably would, but I'd do it a lot differently. But to do it in the same way again. There's been brushes with, I've almost been bankrupt twice in that list that you've read there, and it's been.
I wanted to, time goes so damn quick when I'm talking to people like you because there's so much that I want to ask. But can you just tell us about, you're right. There's so much, all of this is amazing, but I don't want people to think it was all just, piece of cake. So tell us the worst thing that happened.
So we've had a couple of things fail, as you do. I mean, in investment, you do.
Yeah.
There was a couple of acquisitions where they didn't work out. I mean, we were able to kind of sort them out and it not be catastrophic, but there was, there's been times where I've lost a lot of money. So there was one particular investment where I lost just over £1 million of real money that could have been in my pocket. That's not just money I've borrowed and stuff. That's real money that's gone in and been lost, so it doesn't always work out. And I could have just quit then, and some people that work with me did, so it's kind of like, it's not easy. And I would wonder why anybody would want to be like me, and do what I've done, because it is horrendous, and if you've not got that internal motivation to do it, and I must admit, I'm a very non-cliche person. Like, I'm feeling sick even saying this, but if you've not got your own motivation to do it and to drive you on with it, you will not succeed. It's just like the low points are so low, you can understand why people have bad mental health problems and get to a really bad place. Like, I've almost been there myself. It's been massively difficult. Plus, you're talking about 15 years as well. It's not an overnight. That's an overnight success. 15 years.
Yeah, but you say that, but you're 34 for Christ's sake.
Well, yeah, that's true. So
you're just out of nappies.
I know. I'm changing nappies now as well. Although my partner would disagree. But yeah, it's. So
how do you? It's important what you said there about, let's talk about the mental health aspect for a little bit. I will hold my hand up and be the first person to say, I have a lot of up and downs, right? When things are going well, life's great. But when things aren't going well, I can very quickly turn into, that's it. It's all over. I'm going to lose everything, giving up, just going to go and, live off grid in a cave and call it a day.
That's me. That is me.
But is it? Because how can you go through, I don't think that I would have the balls if I ever got to a point where I had £1 million to lose. I don't know if I'd be able to put that at risk. I think I'd just say, you know what? I've got £1 million in my pocket. I'm now going to go and buy a really nice road bike and just cycle every day. I don't know if I'd be willing to put that at risk. And I remember reading Duncan Bannatyne's book when he spoke about just how much he put on the line, sold everything, maxed the credit card, sleeping in the car, trying to get his business going. I don't think I've got that in me, and I don't think a lot of people have that. But I think you do, right? You'd be willing to put everything on the line again.
Yeah. I've slept in the car and stuff early on. I would, yeah. I mean, it's.
Why?
I don't know. Because
why?
you're sensible and I'm ridiculous. That's why. And there should be less people like me. But
there wouldn't be any jobs if there was less people like you.
I suppose so. But it's just I guess being wired up differently. And it was very early on. Like, I thought I wasn't that person. Like, being called an entrepreneur to me back then, before I even started that, was like being called Del Boy. Like, I didn't really, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't.
Did you ever have a Filofax?
No, I'm not.
Of those massive phones.
I'm not that old, Alex, actually. but I do have one because my mother-in-law bought me one, and it's a proper. Well, it's a portfolio, but it's made by Filofax. Okay. So just about a bit of a crossover there, yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's just been wired up differently. It's been a maniac, because that's what this is. It's risking. I mean, that £1 million was lost over like 18 months, but it's still a lot of money, and it pains me to even think, what I could do with that now. But
this is really answers all the questions. Would you rather continue where you are now, just kind of in a very comfortable place, got 50 odd employees, you've got all these businesses, or would you get a bigger kick out of, losing it all and then building it up to something bigger?
Yeah, because
that's where I'd
obviously choose that. If I knew that if I lost it, it would be bigger, I'd say yeah.
But that's where you get your kicks from, right? Yeah,
I suppose so, yeah. It's kind of like being an adventurous. In fact, somebody told me the other day, somebody used a term that I'm like a business explorer. And I think that's probably right, to be honest. I'd never heard that before. Like, yeah, you're an explorer. And I think, yeah, probably. I mean, first of all, I thought, no, I'm not, because everything's well planned out. And I think, yeah, only in the last like 3 or 4 years is it properly planned out. So yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Obviously these days there's too many people to look after and stuff. So I'd hate to think that things didn't work. But we are the biggest and most stable we've ever been. So there's got to be something to be said for that, you know. And it's probably because I've got more corporate people working for me now as well. So we're doing things, we're trying to stay nimble and keep to the values of what we've always had. But we do have more people working for us now that like to keep a steady ship.
How does it make you feel when you walk into the office? And I want to ask you what your day looks like after this, but when you walk into the office as a 34-year-old, the boss, the CEO, the owner, and you're talking to presumably, I don't know, let's say someone who's mid-50s, hugely accomplished in their field, incredibly intelligent, a real expert, and you're talking to them as a 34-year-old. Is there any kind of
all
imposter
the time.
syndrome there?
All the time, yeah. I mean, it's less now because...
Do they respect you?
Some of them, yeah, I would imagine so. I'd imagine some of them don't. Some of them don't ever really meet me because I've got layers of management now of people that do know what they're doing, of a similar age, of a similar background. So I guess that's me adapting to that problem, actually thinking about it. So
you really only have contact with one or two people?
Normally,
normally,
because the stuff I do is not detailed enough. And I think because I'm quite a detailed person, so if they let me into that level of stuff, I'd probably cause more problems than I would solutions, if that makes sense.
What, by micromanaging? Or?
Yeah, I think so. Or by micro-tasking and things like that. So I think it's kind of, I keep out of that. And I know, and this is the first time I'm saying it, I know that my management team have a group, WhatsApp group called...
Don't tell Nathan.
No, it's... Nathan not included or something, or Nathan's not in this. So I know that exists, but it's good because...
Do they know that you know it exists?
Probably not. Well, they do now, but I like that, you know, because they're off making sensible decisions to keep the business stable, keep operations going, keep it so that we can take on new contracts and stuff. Whereas I think business gets to a size where someone like me is probably more of a nightmare than, like, I build stuff and then I don't know what to do once it's built, you know? That's weird. I mean, it's the first time I've said that.
You want a new Lego set?
What's the next thing to build? Yeah. That's it. You know, where's the next toy sort of thing?
Let me know when your birthday is. I'm going to send you some Lego for Christmas. I'll send you a Lego set.
Yeah, distribution centre. Yeah, but it's so I think that's probably it, because you often see like business owners getting chucked out of their business when things get really big, don't you? I mean, it's the story with Apple. It's the story with. Also, there's other smaller businesses that I know of that are not mainstream, where the main chief exec or director or founder's kicked out because they're just a nuisance, you know. So I think there is like a critical mass where a business gets so big that it needs to become a bit more corporate, and I think we're on the cusp of that.
Okay.
So what that looks like in 5 years' time, I couldn't tell you, but yeah, we try to keep going. Yeah.
And what is as we start thinking about wrapping up, what's your day-to-day life look like? Because a lot of people who operate in your world of high achievement, you know, they're up at 3, they're doing their affirmations in the mirror, then they're doing their sauna and their, meditation, or do you roll out of bed 9 o'clock kind of guy?
Well, I've got to admit, I'm not a woo-woo guy. Yeah. So I'm not, I'm up early. It depends whether I'm having to travel or not. So I'm usually traveling. My day is usually getting up probably 6:30, 7 to travel somewhere, to see a site or, meet the guys, run through management accounts, whatever it's going to be. So I'm usually traveling. All over the country, yeah. Emails, phone calls, lots and lots of phone calls, meetings, to discuss different things. We might be focusing on an issue that week, or we might be looking at the next acquisition, or, how we can improve X, Y, Z. So it's kind of lots of boring, repetitive corporate stuff, actually. But there's a lot of dynamic stuff thrown in. So I might go and visit something exciting. So the other day I went to see a solar farm. So I thought that was pretty exciting. And having, days like this as well, being able to just...
This is obviously a highlight of your year.
This is obviously the highlight of the year, yeah. In orange. So yeah, it's good because I can kind of do what I want, but I want to work, as weird as that sounds. So I can have the day off and do this and not be in any rush, which is great. And it's kind of all part of the business. Like even though I'm not really selling anything or pitching anything, it's still promotion and it's still for the business, you know. So everything I do's kind of got to be for the business. Like my partner, we've just had a new kitchen and it's taken her 5 years to wear me down to get this new kitchen. And she was like, oh, should we get one of those boiling hot water taps? And I remember thinking in my head, we've got one of those in the office. And if I buy one for home, it doesn't make me any money. So why would I buy it? And like the old tap's knackered and there's a bucket underneath it and stuff. And I think you've got to draw the line somewhere. This is how the rich
get richer, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Listen to this.
You've got to draw the line somewhere. So we got the boiling water tap that apparently peels tomatoes. But yeah, it's one of those things where I've got to learn to start enjoying my life as well. That's something I don't do. In fact, on the way here, I was talking to my commercial director. And she was saying, we don't celebrate things anymore. We just move on to the next problem. I was like, what do you mean? We went out for fish and chips the other day. She's like, no, like proper, like popping the champagne and having a night out with the guys and, putting some money behind the bar. Buying a Porsche. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm going to buy that Porsche, but...
Can I have a go in it?
Yeah, you can if you want. It'll be an electric one though, so that it's all tax deductible. But so it's just like trying to learn to enjoy my life a little bit more as well, and because I don't have to work like I did back then, when I had to find the customers that's all there now. We just have to manage what we've got and maybe not sit back, but give ourselves a bit of an
don't
easier
have to
time.
Graph like all that 10, 12 years ago when you was really, putting in the hours.
That's it, yeah.
You're not going to get any sympathy out of me, mate. So lastly, what is it that you're investing in now? I want to know what you're investing in, what you see the smart investments, because that's obviously where your talents are, and who is it that's inspiring you? Who are you looking up to, and who are you kind of chasing to be like?
That's another funny one as well. I don't really aspire to anyone else. I kind of look at what.
I had you down as an Elon guy.
Well, if you had a gun to my head, probably yeah. Because I've got. He keeps knocking my car. You've not got the best car. It's a Tesla. It's nice. It's electric, therefore it's very tax efficient. But yeah, so I do like the sorts of things he does, but you think, well, you couldn't create that from scratch today. I don't think, but he's an incredible guy. He probably is a super genius, but then he does have very good teams around him. So probably him, if I had a gun to my head, as being innovative, doing the next thing. And in terms of business and what I'm looking at, I tend to like infrastructural businesses, so transport and warehousing, it's infrastructure. I like to have businesses where they've got what's known as moats, so like high barrier to entry. So you couldn't start a business like what we've got now. You couldn't start that from scratch today without, I don't know, like 10 million quid, something like that. So I like businesses that are very well defensible, recession proof, infrastructural. So we've got another business which is in electric car charging points. So we have a business in that. So I like infrastructure. I like things that, tangible stuff, like we were talking earlier, tangible stuff where it's asset based. So you've always got something to fall back on, or, can feed the business in times where it's, lighter trading periods, stuff like that, So infrastructure is what I'm looking at. And, essentially just trying to keep it all within the same vague area if I possibly can. Like I probably wouldn't go completely left field and buy a pet shop, for example, now, whereas back then I might have done. But we were kind of finding our feet and developing a bit of an investment mandate back then. So when
you buy these haulage companies, do you actually take ownership of these big trucks?
Yeah.
So you own the lorries?
We own all the kit, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, massive things as well. When you actually walk up to them, they're huge and you sit in them. And they're fantastic as well. Like we bought 2 new ones not long ago. They've got beds in them, ovens. They've got like microwaves, fridges. Like I say, there's a bed up top. Like because people go on long trips, and they're proper state of the art kit. Like it's like a spaceship. Like they are professionals to drive those pieces of kit, But they're fantastic. Yeah.
Unreal. Right, last question for you. I want to say going back to 21 again, which was like literally last week, but let's do it. 21-year-old Nathan, starting all over, back eating pot noodles. What would you do different? For someone just starting out, maybe that's looking to you for inspiration and a bit of wisdom and a bit of advice. What would you do different? Maybe 3 things that you think everybody needs to get ahead that maybe you was lacking back then, or just some simple things that you changed?
3 things. Number 1, less ego. Number 2,
you got 0 ego now.
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, some people might say I have. I don't know, but I try not to have, because I like to, focus on the business. But yeah, I think the 3 things would be: a 21-year-old me would have much more ego, so less ego, focus more on the numbers, and don't jump into bed with every opportunity that seems fantastic, even if it's easy.
Do a bit more due diligence.
I think those are the 3 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about just for my own interests, like working with investors and loaning money? Have you been stung there in any way? Or
I have, yeah, but not in a very big way, luckily. I mean, we do lending. It tends to be to our own businesses or businesses we've invested in. But I've done lending. I've lent to property investors as well. It's not a fantastic return, but it's secure and stuff. So we do less of that sort of stuff now, because we can make a very good returns on this kind of activity, which I must admit is very high risk. But if you manage it in the right way, you can manage that risk. But yeah, I think it's kind of just suck it and see, really. But yeah, I've done all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Amazing. Well, look, mate, I've learned so much. I've honestly got so much respect for you and what you've done. This guy is one to watch for the future. Who knows what he's going to achieve by the time he's 40? Probably twice what he's done already by just 34. And I love the fact that you're just, you're not. I mean, yes, of course you do the occasional post. I saw the one of you standing in your, your latest acquisition in the 80,000 square foot distribution centre, saying, our latest purchase. And of course you need to celebrate your wins. But I love the fact that you're not out there just selling and promoting yourself every single day and buy my course and here's my ebook. And, I love that, because for me, it's just so much, I don't know. It's just nice. It's nice. It's refreshing in this day and age, because everybody's just doing the opposite. So kudos to you. And you said out there when we was talking that you just love that you can just fly under the radar. Yeah, I do love that, and be underestimated. It helps sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's good. I do like it. Yeah. And it's nice to see all the stuff online and, kind of know who the good people are and bad people are to some degree, and just watching it all go by and people flap about is I think what you said. So
I hope you don't miss out on some very well-deserved awards or stuff just because you're not always on Facebook and Instagram, because
I know. Well, yeah, I mean, you found me, so I must be doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's great. So we're going to put all of Nathan's information and contact info and social handles in the show notes. If you want to reach out, presumably you're okay if people want to reach out and ask questions and find out and speak to someone who's actually out there doing this shit and not just really good at making reels and leasing a nice car to shoot a video clip in and say that they're doing it. This guy's the real deal, buying stuff left, right and center, fixing businesses, selling businesses, building businesses, and all by 34. And he wouldn't even let me buy him a coffee on the way in. That's how nice he is.
Thank you very much,
mate,
sir.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate it. Drove all the way from Leeds. So yeah, really, really cool. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to the podcast. And stay tuned, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. Till then, take care. Goodbye.